About the Shohei thing. These big, huge contracts, yeah, they're probably a bad idea, but so's a big piece of cake. And I'm going to eat it sometimes because I like chocolate. So,
but if you have a finite budget, it's like do they have a finite budget? Well, I don't. They seem to. They seem to have a finite budget.
Do they?
Well, I mean, they
spend more than people give them credit for.
I'm not saying they don't spend a lot. I'm just saying that it's not like an endless amount of money they have to spend. It's definitely very finite. So it's like if you're gonna, I just look at all the free agent signings. It's like if there's 10 big money signings, like 9 of them are bad.
Totally.
So,
and it's been
would you rather
way.
Get the one? Are you seriously going to be like, we're going to get the one good contract? I mean, it's amazing if you think about it. You know who was like one of the greatest free agents of all time? Barry Bonds.
Yeah,
Barry Bonds signed him to a $90 million deal, signed him to a $42 million deal. Giants didn't regret one penny.
That's true. No, there are examples. Scherzer was a great one once upon a time. I mentioned Betts. We're only 3 years in. These mega deals have worked out at times. Again, it's only 70 games in, but I think the Yankees feel fine about what they did with Aaron Judge. And I think teams are willing to say the last 3 or 4 years might be a little bit of a struggle. If we can get 6, 7, 8 on the front end, we'll make that deal. The problem is when it stinks right away. And, we're bringing up Correa. You look at the Padres. I am fascinated to see what that team looks like in 6 years because they've signed everybody to 13 years and $300-something million. It's not just Machado. Tatis, who got caught with steroids. Xander Bogaerts is on one of these deals. We'll see what happens.
$280 million.
And they're all underperforming. The whole team is underperforming.
And they don't care because of what? Insurance, I guess? They can get out.
Well,
they can get these deals insured and you can walk away.
Every team has got their own thing going on, right? Like the Padres don't care because they have successfully done what they set out to do, which was become the deal in that market when the Chargers left. When the Chargers left, it felt like, well, that's it for pro sports in San Diego because all we have is the Padres and nobody really cares. And they've got this sparkling ballpark that they've turned into the cool place to be, and they turned it into the cool place to be by filling it with cool people. And so they do. They've got cool people. They've got cool players. They got fun City Connect uniforms.
It's an awesome, the gas lamp is an awesome experience.
It is fantastic, right? So that's what they're doing. If it translates, and I think that's what they're hoping, that it also translates to a winning environment. And it has to a degree. It's not like they've been awful. But if they get through this whole window and they never win a championship, quite frankly, behind closed doors, they're probably like, that's not the end of the world. We got everybody. We got attendance. We got cool factor. People are suddenly caring. That's what they were going after, and it's probably why they've thrown caution to the wind. I don't care what this looks like in 10 years. We got to strike while the iron's hot. And it's probably a very much short-term game, long-term loss thing. And that's why I'm not a proponent of the Giants doing that, going out and having 7 or 8, 9-figure contracts at once. It's probably a terrible idea.
Yeah. And maybe the best plan would just be stay the heck out of Farhan's way, maybe emphasize some local guys, because let's be honest, the Bay Area, we're a very provincial place. We definitely like our local guys. And I think there's a connection. There's a little bit more connection if the guy's local. But maybe that's the message. I know Farhan wants to be a pleaser and like please the fans, please the ownership group, but maybe he ought to just kind of tell the ownership group, get the hell out of my face. In the nicest of ways. You know what? Don't force your, a gate, addition. It's one thing to have a gate, property or player, but you know what? I think the fans here want a competitor and a team that's competitive. And why don't we do that by just building up our farm system and trying to operate, kind of the way he's done it on the margins,
be sustainable
farm system. Yeah. Something that's a plan that's as you said, sustainable and stay away from the landmine expenditures that are going to blow up your budget.
That said, $495 million 10-year deal, Shohei, this offseason. Yay or nay? I'm impressed that you had to think about it that long.
I mean, I love Shohei as a player, and he's very, very unique. But I don't like him as a free agent because you're paying him partially because he's a pitcher and a hitter. But then if you lose him, you're losing two guys instead of one in some ways.
That's true.
So it's kind of a double negative if he gets hurt. I would say no. I would say no. Wow. I like the idea of where they're at, of shop on the margins, promote from within, build up your farm system. I would rather see them give some awesome baseball scout who works for the Padres or Dodgers or Rays, double his salary and bring him here and start kicking butt in the amateur draft. Then go for Shohei and have this big Shohei.
I think they like what they've been doing in the draft. Here Bailey and Schmidt are here. Wisenhunt, Crawford. I think they
maybe that's the case. Maybe they don't need that scout. Maybe they have a good enough scout.
I would just say
anything that
both.
you could do to bolster your player development. That might be the word.
I don't know if it needs to be $500 million in Shohei Ohtani, but I think the plan has always been to do what you're saying and bolster that from within and the farm and the homegrown and the core and all that. But then once you have that and you do see the right free agent at the right position at the right age, go for it. The one thing that I would sort of caution with Shohei is that, the reason I think the Giants were so hot after Bryce Harper, the reason I think that they wanted Juan Soto, to a degree, Carlos Correa as well. Judge maybe is a little bit of a different deal. He's from Northern California, and they seem to love that. But they don't want to do big contracts for people who are now in their 30s. And
that's free agency.
Shohei is like 7 years older than what Bryce Harper was when he was a free agent. So, that's tough. They won't go 5 years on a pitcher. So now they're going to go 10 on one who's already 30? It doesn't feel like their kind of deal.
I don't like the pitcher angle ever, by the way.
I don't think they will. Like, people are asking on YouTube about Gausman and what did the Giants offer him. I think they were in on the conversation, but the first minute they heard 5 years, they're like, night. Same with Rodon. I don't think the Giants will ever sign a pitcher to a 5-year contract ever again, and I think they're right.
I think Farhan could write a book on how to be involved without being involved, how to be involved in a free agent but not get him. I mean, they made a bid for Bumgarner. They made a bid for Rodon, right? But
not that bid.
But not the winning
exactly.
bid. There's a way to do it where you can kind of, hey, we tried, but we're not going to do absurd. And then your fan base is a little bit more like, okay, yeah, you know what? He's trying to make prudent, smart decisions.
Speaking of Farhan, we had mentioned on our show yesterday that he'd be joining us at 5:20 today.
Right.
He needed to move to tomorrow. So 5:20 tomorrow, Farhan Zaidi, and we will also have at 2:30 tomorrow Kyle Haynes, who is the director of player development for the Giants. So we'll have both of those on with us tomorrow, and you will be here again for that. So looking forward to that, but wanted to let everybody know. John in San Francisco. Hey, John, you're on with Willard and Larry Krueger. What are you doing?
All right. Okay, so I am all for signing these like Shohei, Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, Juan Soto to like 10-year massive contracts because these are top 5, top 10 players in the game. Like, I'm all for it. One, it boosts ticket sales. 2, it attracts other free agents, and that's what we need. So, this offseason, if I was Farhan, I would offer Shohei like 7 years, $400 million. I don't care. I don't care what the annual value is. I don't want him for 10 years though. Like, I'll offer him a 7-year contract, make him the highest player in the game, and see where that takes us. And then in 2 years when Juan Soto's contract expires with the Padres, I'd offer him a 10-year contract because he's young, and that I would pay the premium for true top 5 players in the game.
Yeah, but John, you understand the offer you're making probably doesn't get it done. Why would Shohei take a 7-year $400 when the next door neighbor is going to have 10 years and $500? Why would he take that?
Longevity. You really think? Then I'd go 500 for 7, 500 for 8. Because I don't want him. I don't want because Shohei's a two-way player, right? He's the best player in the game. I don't want him at 37 when he's going to have like a 6 ERA and 2 more Tommy John.
No, I think you're smart. You're basically saying, give me a higher AAV but a shorter term, and you're almost treating it kind of like Hollywood treats headliners, right? Like the guy, Tom Cruise makes ridiculous cash, and everybody else makes nothing.
See, here's what I would do, though, and there is the precedent for this already. And, John, thanks so much. I would say what's going to start to become the norm with all these deals that seem to take people to their 40th birthday is instead of what usually happens, which is the deal gets bigger as it goes and then maybe plateaus at a certain point, build it like a rainbow. Those last 4 years, it goes down. And I would rather overpay at the front. Like if I had Shohei and we did 10 years and $500 million, I'm not doing $50 million a year. That's not what I'm doing.
I'll pay 70.
I'll pay you 65 right now.
Right.
I'll pay you 70 next year.
So you want
so that
his
at the
actual
end,
that it reflects.
I'm paying you 20.
Yeah.
And it's 10 years from now when 20 will actually feel like what 10 is now. And if you want to get out of it, you can get out of it. And cut your losses or whatever if the guy literally can't play. Who knows? There could be a buyout. There could be a trade. You see what the Angels ended up doing with Pujols at the end of his deal. I would slot it that way. When everyone calls and goes, oh, everyone does this with other people's money. Just if he doesn't want 500, give him 600. Like that's not the business people don't do that. But what I would do is I would do that on the front end. So no, I'm not going to
sliding scale backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because it's you're not going to be as good when you're 39 as when you're 31. That's obvious.
No question. This conversation though, it's almost like we got to have two different conversations because Shohei is Carlos Correa is a baseball player. Shohei is much more than a baseball
star.
He's a star,
yes.
Right? And Shohei is going to make my wife want to go to the game. Where Carlos Correa is going to make me want to go to the game, you know? And you got to, so I put Shohei in a totally different category, and I would probably be willing to bid crazy figures on Shohei because he is, I don't even how would you describe him?
He's box office.
He's a transcendent type player.
He's box office. And how many of those are there even in baseball?
Like Aaron Judge was box office.
Yep.
And if they had gotten Aaron Judge, great move. But the pivot to Correa was a disaster even thought because Correa was not box office. And in my opinion, I think one of the things that really turned the Giants off because they jumped out a week after they actually agreed to the deal is I bet you they didn't have very many people wanting to buy tickets. And they're sitting there going, wait a second, we're getting involved in a player for $350 million. And in the first week that we sign him where the most excitement should be here, we're not really selling tickets. That's a bad sign. And then they're like, I'm not saying that they said to Farhan, find any loophole to get us out of here, but I wouldn't put it past them if they saw that they weren't doing any advanced ticket sales.
It's interesting because it also got to the 11th hour. Like the man was dressed and ready for his press conference. So
it's a bad look.
That's a bad look.
I mean, it reeks of like we butchered this.
Well, it reeks of at the last minute, you're scrambling. Although, right, the Raiders had the Garoppolo press conference all teed up too, and there was a reason that got pushed another day. But I've long wondered, wouldn't it be fun to get Farhan? Someday he'll be retired. Get him in a private room with no microphones and be like, "Come on, man. What happened there? Did you even want to do that deal?" Because it's literally the most anti-Farhan deal I've ever seen. And I'm sure that ownership was the ones actually driving the bus on a $350 million contract. But everything that Farhan has said he believes in, everything he's done, everything screams you don't give Carlos Correa 13 years and $350 million. But they did it anyway. And I was thrilled about it and I think it's why they did it. The Giants were in a spot where they're like, we have to do something or else the PR is going to be brutal. And in a way, this ended up splitting the difference because it's like they did it, but then they didn't actually have to follow through and do it. And they could look like, oh, gosh, palms up, whoops, like I can't believe it went that way. And the PR was still bad, but that's a little bit softer than just, hey, we didn't even try.
Yeah, I mean the PR we were not.
It was bad.
It was horrendous. I mean they hit out. I mean they next spoke on a Friday after 5 to like a select group of beat writers weeks and weeks and weeks
and
later.
I've thought a lot about it. Like, why would they? Why would they come?
Right. Well, I mean,
Why would they come take the be in front of the firing squad? And the only way to fix it, no matter what you say, is to do what they're doing right now. Have players who you didn't see coming start playing really well and win more baseball games than you lose.
Yeah.
That's the only way to fix it.
How many guys in the sport would you put in that Ohtani category? How many guys, if every single guy in the sport were a free agent, how many would you actually sit there and say, you know what? This guy transcends the game.
Like box office.
Yeah, is Mike Trout a baseball player or is Mike Trout box office?
I feel like not anymore. He was.
Yeah.
But the shine is off.
Right.
And he's become just a very good player, but nondescript and not even the best player on his own team.
I love Betts. I think Betts is a huge talent. Betts a baseball player or is Betts box office?
Baseball, really good baseball player.
And I think this is part of baseball's problem is they really don't have that many box office players.
Honestly,
Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani.
Maybe Bryce Harper. And that might be it. I'm not kidding. As far as offensive players, give me another one.
I mean, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
But you know what?
Most of them are just baseball players.
But you know what? That's also because of the regional nature of baseball. Like, take out Barry Bonds and give me in the Oracle Park era, Pac Bell Park, whatever you want to call it, give me any Giant who is actually a star.
Who's a box office star.
We think there are a ton.
Right.
We got 10 names for you.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, Lincecum and Bumgarner and Kaner and Buster and Pence. Like, they're stars to us, but they're not stars.
They're not transcendent superstars with Q rating.
They're not Beatles.
They're not getting invited to the Academy Awards.
No, but none of these guys are.
Right.
Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman could walk down the Embarcadero to a Giants-Dodger game. The only thing that would happen is one of those guys in little buggies would come up and be like, you want to ride for $20?
Exactly.
Nobody even know who he is.
No.
And he's one of the best players in the game.
It might be time for Farhan to say to the ownership group, hey, look, I know we did this flirtation with some of these mega stars, but I think we should just look at what we almost committed to and what that would have done to our business plan. And let's take this in a totally different direction going forward. If you guys want to make some outlandish $70 million a year contract offer to Shohei because you feel like he's the guy, you may not be able to do a bad deal with a Shohei. You might not be able to do a bad deal with an Aaron Judge, but then you may not be able to do a good deal with almost all these other guys. So, right. You know what I mean? It may be just like, hey, let's get out of the free agent mega deal business and just start building this thing with a little bit, more conservative approach, but one that's focused on building from within.